Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men Podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world by far. I don't think anyone comes close.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men Podcast, and we have another emergency podcast for you.
Special.
Yes. So as always, it's Scagz and yours truly, the captain. We got a couple of people here with us today. Scagz, why don't you introduce everyone?
Yeah, man. G Money returns, like I said, for another tinfoil hat special. I'm going to be an expert at making these if the news cycle doesn't calm down.
You know, if we put like Trumpomania or like, you know, Trump Vance 2024, we could start selling them.
Maybe I was going to say, maybe we could start doing Two Doomed Men tinfoil hat merch or something like that, the way things are going. And we are rejoined by Sean Chris from Kill the Mockingbirds podcast. What's up, brother?
What's up, boys?
Hey, that's dope in the beginning, that little Trump. I didn't see because it wasn't there last time, and I know that was more recent, so that was really good.
We saw him a few weeks before they tried to kill him. You know, he was at a wedding of a good friend of ours, and we just had to sit down and talk to him.
Yeah, shout out to Bob De Buono, who's the impersonator on that. Go follow him on Instagram. He's a really funny dude. He was really nice too. Yeah, you know, sat there and dealt with us like giddy schoolgirls trying to get a photo with them and all that stuff. Yeah, and he had a really good
cornered him in the bridal suite.
Yeah, yeah, man. So here we are. We're back. I mean,
another emergency podcast. You know, I when I watched you put the tinfoil hat on, Scagz, I was like thinking to myself, I was like, if crazy stuff keeps happening to this extent, in like a month or two before the election comes, like you'll be up here with me and Garrett, like reciting like Q and stuff, like QAnon stuff.
That I will never personally. I mean, I will still wear the tinfoil hat, but I'll have a different perspective on it. Things are always crazy, though. I think, man, like it's good for a podcast, though, man. That's what I mean. You got to look at the positive side of it. For podcasting, it's awesome, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, what would we be talking about if things were good? We're like, yeah, you know, commie's great. Like, you know, you gotta have a little.
I always said if you know Trump got elected and like some, you know, this magical utopia arose, we'd be out of business.
Yeah, gives us a lot to talk about. Like I said in the last episode, right? I mean, there's no shortage of news.
No.
So tonight we are going to talk about Biden dropping out. And then I thought we could play a bunch of videos.
Dropping dead. I'm with Sean Chris on that one.
Yeah. And then we'll talk about the Secret Service chief, whose name I cannot stop forgetting.
Kimberly Cheetos.
Kimberly Cheadle, Don Cheadle, like
that's how I remember. Like that.
Yeah. Her abysmal testimony today in Congress about the assassination.
She got raked over the coals today.
Yeah,
quite amazing.
By everybody.
Yeah,
by everybody.
We'll get into both of those. Before we get started, man, Sean, why don't you shout out your show, do the plugs and all that stuff.
Kill the Mockingbirds. Actually, I've been on a break, man. I haven't even done a podcast in about a month. I've been just chilling. It was my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, man. You got to do that so you can get the little happy birthdays. You know what I mean?
Fuck yeah, man. You deserve it. Like you said, you want to keep stuff positive.
Waited all year for it, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? And then just been chilling, man. I'm actually redoing some new stuff. I got some more podcasts coming out. Just everything's been so polarized, but even my website is being revamped. But you can eventually go back to KillTheMockingbirds.com or go to Kill the Mockingbirds and check out all the other old episodes. I prefer to not go to a legacy app. Don't go to Apple or Spotify. Find me on a podcast 2.0 app because we won't be there forever.
Oh yeah, Destiny will be, but not us though.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later. But I thought let's kind of start off the conversation. It's funny, Cap, because we talked about this in the last episode, how the rumors were he was going to drop out on Sunday. You know, I didn't know if I believed it or not at the time. You never know these things.
And there was so much back and forth.
Yeah, it turns out he did, and he did it via a tweet.
And a non-presidential letterhead.
One of the most ironic things ever, which I'll read to those who are listening. Biden says, my fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision.
For now, let me out of here.
For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all of this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do. When we do it together, we just have to remember we are the United States of America. Signed, Joe J.R. Biden. That's it.
That's the third signature that doesn't look like his, but continue. Yep. Sorry.
But that was the extent of it. A tweet.
You know, the whole part of saving democracy at the same time throwing democracy out the window was quite nice. You know, I was thinking about this because the media is in such a weird position right now. Assassination attempt on Trump. You know, most of them wanted to be cheering and dancing and jumping up and down, but they had to give, you know, thoughts and prayers and a speedy recovery. And in the same breath, he's an existential threat to democracy. Now the media is, well, Joe Biden's got to step down, but he had one of the most successful presidencies in my lifetime. Have any of you guys ever been fired before? Right?
No, I quit before they get a chance, man. I'm like, okay. I Joe Biden that shit.
So, but think of it like I remember I got fired from a job one time, and they sat me down, and they're like, one time. One
time, sure, buddy.
They and they said to me, they go, you know, you don't have anything to worry about. You're extremely smart and bright. You know, you're going to do great things. Well, why are you getting rid of me? Okay, because I'm not being successful here. There's no way you could say he needs to be removed and he needs to step down. But this was one of the most successful presidencies ever. If he was one of the most successful presidents ever, you would want him in the second term.
It's a great point. I like how you tried to tie that too to how they were talking about Trump after. It's a great point.
In my opinion, it kind of like leads to what I've been saying since the 2020 election, where I'm like, yeah, I think this is a play because Trump's going to win in 2024. I've been consistently saying that. I think this is like a ploy because Trump didn't look like he even wanted to win the 2020 election. The way that he campaigned, he was very mild, to say the least, right? Like he wasn't going, oh, I'm going to drain the swamp and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He was very political with his answers, and people could argue that, okay, he was trying a different approach, which I don't understand why, when he already had a base that's rabid for that. And then after he loses the election, he starts to ramp it up. Oh, did you see this bill? How come you weren't talking about this rhetoric during the election? Because I think that the economy was going to fall regardless, because a lot of people want to blame just Joe Biden for the economy, which I do give him a very big portion of it, but Trump as well. He raised the debt ceiling just like any other president. He did the same useless spending. The same things happened, and this was going to happen on his watch regardless. And I think the establishment did not want this to hit on his watch, because they want us, in my opinion, to constantly be rabid against each other. And just as I predicted as well, I knew the pendulum would swing back, and when the power got into the other side, they would try to start after each other instead of seeing we are the whole working class. So to me, the game's playing perfect how they want it. Like, I think that they continue the rhetoric of like, oh, well, man, he missed. Oh, I wish this and that, because there's a lot of propagandized people. The people in the media are just, in my opinion, different intelligent agents that are feeding us information that they want us to hear. So they want us to be divided. And I just think everything that's happened in this last month has really solidified the divide in another way that they like. It's like every time I think they can't get into more layers of divide, they find a new way, and they string on some emotion that gets us a reaction. And obviously with an attempted assassination, which, for the record, I don't think that a lot of people, where they're like, oh, Trump did it to himself. I'm sorry, bro. Dude's a narcissist. Yeah. He's about himself. I'm not, me personally, and I care about people, even for this country. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, you could like try to assassinate me and just don't, try to just hit my ear, bro. Like, that's no way in any form of what happened. In my opinion, what happened is it's the typical FBI 101 where they radicalize somebody. And I think there was not supposed to be a gun involved whatsoever. I think it was just supposed, we saw the detonators. I think it was supposed to be a fake bomb. FBI comes in. Oh yeah, we got him, guys. Don't worry. He was going to blow something up, but we stopped him, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe even have the explosive like that Nashville. Remember Nashville when they had that, maybe have some kind of event, but FBI to further this domestic terrorist narrative that they've been trying to get the working class under. And I think that's the point of it. I think that what human nature brought into it was this guy was so deranged that the FBI didn't realize this dude's gonna just roll up with allegedly an AR-15. We only know so much. I mean, we're not privy to all the information. That's why I think they stand down. It kind of reminds me of Able Danger in 9/11, right? Oh, there's just so happens to be an exercise about people hijacking planes the same day that people are hijacking planes. So I think that people were under the impression that this was some sort of exercise, or that this was going to be a ploy that was discovered before anything happened.
Yeah, that's close to my conclusion on the whole thing as well. It's similar to how they radicalized Muslim men during the terror war period.
100%.
To get them to, try more terrorist attacks to then justify the terror wars. It's probably what happened through Discord or those accounts that he had. And then they created the space on location for him to then do it. The space being the rooftop and all that stuff. So I mean, we could get into a little bit.
The BlackRock owned rooftop.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we could get into that when we go through the videos of everybody tearing Trump apart in the assassination. But getting back to the Biden exchange and how everything's been going out, I know a bunch of us have said that he'll never complete his term, and we don't ever see him running for the second term. That's why it was surprising they've kept him on. But they, like they were saying, they changed the narrative and the propaganda machine almost against the Democratic Party. You watch that switch, and they've just been putting that negative propaganda on Joe Biden. But this is the wild thing for me. It was like, whether you're a right, left, whatever team you're playing for, right? Like, they've literally just told you that he is the sharpest tack for the past 3.5 years. And within a week and a half, they got rid of him.
And think of this, Garrett. He's the most popular president ever.
Time.
But yet we could turn on him this quickly.
How about also
that quick? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they turned on a dime, right, because of the debate thing. But how about the fact that he has to step down? We all know it is, right? They're saying he has to step down because he's not all there, right? And he's now become so unpopular that they're scared about the poll results or whatever. But he can still stay president for the next couple months.
Yeah,
and you know, in theory, you know, be responsible for the nuclear arsenal.
Well, that's
because
why
you know that's what really is going on there. You know.
Yeah, I think you're seeing, and we've been, you know, obviously going back and forth all day. Is you have, you know. No, it kind of got skimmed over, but when he was in Las Vegas last week, there was a presidential emergency. They were going to rush him to the hospital. Then they put him on Air Force One.
This is Joe Biden, right?
Yes.
I just found out about this.
Yeah, no, nobody's seen him since. And then he had COVID. Then nobody still talked to him. And then all of a sudden, Kamala's on live, and she even slips and says, "Oh, he's still on the recording."
I have that video.
And they have, if you want to play that, and they have that. And then all of a sudden, now they're meeting him. She's flying out to Camp David to meet him. This is literally him. I think the transfer of power is happening. She's going to be the first black woman, female president, which they're going to play on, but they'll also tell you that there's no males or females. So it's kind of weird. But, you know, like, I think we're seeing the transfer power and the completion of the coup d'etat against Joe Biden right now within, you know, in real time as we're sitting here.
Yeah, I think they want this, though. I think the establishment wants Trump. Like, I think they've wanted him the whole time. Because if you saw in the last year and a half or so, they've been slowly making Joe Biden look very like he's already has his problems. But for instance, like he's
had his problems for 40 years, man.
Yeah, but you see him reading a teleprompter, and they're putting, if you know he can't pronounce words,
like Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, but when you put in words that you know he can't, you have people that are writing these things, so it's not far-fetched to believe that someone's trying to make him look bad. What they slowly did it, a slow leak, and then they're trying to let him gracefully, quote unquote, bow out by, oh, you know, now he's getting too old. But like Scagz said, but a week ago you were like, man, dude, have you been in a room?
Sharp as attack, yeah.
Sharp as attack.
All right, so just random question for all of us. Like, I mean, I think there's multiple Joe Bidens. That's just on me.
So I've always said there is.
You've seen it. Just since we're on a tinfoil episode right here, boys, like, how many of you think that he's really even alive right now?
Oh,
I don't think he's been alive for a long time.
The original Joe Biden? Yeah.
Well, they've talked about him having those brain surgeries and brain aneurysms and all that other stuff. But I don't even think the original Joe Biden was ever installed. And whatever clone or whatever thing we're looking at Joe Biden right now, I think they killed off his clone. I think he died in Vegas possibly, you know, a couple days ago, and they're just playing these AI recordings leading up to it. Because, I mean, all of us know that's not the same man over the past 3 years talking at certain places. Then you'll see him again later in the day, and it's somebody different. Like, even just whatever, his signatures, everything. But, like, do you guys think he's even alive right now?
I think if he's alive, he's like Woodrow Wilson. I've always thought he was the Woodrow Wilson of the modern era, where he's just laid up in there in jail, wants all the power, and she does not want to let it go. And I do think, I can't prove it totally, but I do think that, I don't think clones, for instance, because I have a whole thing on clones where I think it's harder than people think to clone people. But I think for sure, we've all seen the videos of the CIA mask from decades ago. Not that they're using,
and that just
now.
Recently came up again a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago. I know we've been looking at it, but people don't even realize, like, that CIA lady literally walked into the Oval Office in front of Bush, and she didn't even know. And then people are like, oh, how do you fake the voice? I'm like, you don't think that they got some sort of voice thing and everything else? I mean, when we were a kid, we used to have the voice thing changers in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little older than you guys, but yeah.
I put it at I'm going to put it at 70% chance he's still alive. I'm going to go with my theory.
Well, how many percent?
70% chance that he's still alive.
Hold on, Cap. How many is you?
You know, because I've always looked at the pictures. If you look at young Joe Biden, like, he's aged very differently than the way he looked. His chin's different, his earlobes detached, things that, like, his eye color's different. Yeah,
could have got plastic surgery.
His hairline's different.
But still, I mean, if you do enough plastic surgery, I don't see, like, why they would detach. Like, in some pictures as president, he has an attached earlobe. And some pictures as president, he has detached earlobe.
So what's your percentage?
I never 50-50, because I never thought of it as the
Scagz. You out tinfoiled the Cap.
No. I said 70% he's still alive.
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
You've been doing this with Scagz long enough to know he's not going to go down that path. All right.
I thought
I'm the one wearing the fucking tinfoil.
I know. I thought we were starting to turn him.
No,
Sean, what do you think?
I'm going to say even more. I think it's like 85-90% that he's still alive, but maybe sickly. I think I think we jump to a lot of conclusions, right? Like it's fun. Like I think that there is a lot of stuff, but with Scagz, I'm a realist. I think that a lot of things can be explained because there's pictures, because there's even pictures of where Trump doesn't always look the same. You know what I mean? And there's also body doubles. That is a real fact.
No, body doubles are real. Yep.
Yeah, that's a fact that's real.
Yes.
So I think that there is a possibility that I've always thought there's possibility that he is not always him, right? But I'm not fully sold on it if it is or it isn't, because then I'm like, okay, so you're gonna play a part and then you're just gonna be completely retarded, like what I'm saying? Like
that was my biggest problem. So when I said 50-50, I'm like, I know he has body doubles, I know there's CIA masking and stuff like that, but like, so let's say there's like 4 body doubles. There's Joe Biden and 3 doubles, right? All 3 of those actors have to figure out how to fuck up the speech in the most monumental way.
They'd be doing
possible.
That on purpose at this point, right? Because they'd be cognizant, competent people. Acting.
Yeah.
They also say that,
or they just injected them with,
they also say
type 3 diabetes and give them all fucking.
They're saying the guys dementia. That are acting as him, 2 possibles are Jim Carrey.
Oh Jesus!
And
professional actors.
And who played Garth?
Garth?
I don't know.
Oh, Mike Myers.
No, that Mike Myers Wayne.
Dana
Carvey.
Yeah, Dana Carvey. My bad.
And if you've ever seen, Dana Carvey's been doing Joe Biden impersonation since like the 80s and 90s, right?
Who knows, man?
And Jim Carrey's been around doing that stuff for a long time too.
Jim Carrey likes,
and they're both very good at they're both very good. Like what Dana Carvey was in Master Disguisey or whatever that movie was, where he was the Master of Disguise. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep. I remember.
Yeah. Movie. So
I think I always like to look back to historical examples of things like this happening to show people how it's not impossible for anything like this to happen.
Well, I mean, Hitler had body doubles, Stalin had body doubles.
So with this whole scenario with Biden, there's 2 in the Soviet Union that I could even think of that could be possibilities as to what's happening. Number 1 is he could actually be dead, just like when Stalin died, and then they tried to cover it up for a certain period of time after give them time to figure out what they were doing. If you even watch House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, the King Viserys died. They spent a week, right, trying to figure out how they went forward after that. Then there's what I think is very close, and it was almost prophetic what I told you guys about Gorbachev in 91, where like the KGB, some guys in his administration showed up at his house and basically told him, you're out, right? And they cut the phone lines. They then sent press releases back to Moscow saying that he was sick and he couldn't continue as president anymore, and that he was resigning his post and turning it over to the vice president. Turned out later he was able to get a message out, and that kind of like snowballed the whole collapse of the Soviet Union. White pill there for everybody. We could be moving into grounds like that. Who knows? I'm hoping, but
they've also been covering up presidential sickness forever. I mean, think about Roosevelt. Think about JFK. Like they've all had their own issues.
I thought this was the best. I was just going to comment on this. This is probably, in my opinion, almost word for word.
I want to give this person props. GFDOR on Twitter. It's a Bitcoin dude, it seems like. But I saw this yesterday. This is probably like the most concise, clear conspiracy theory around this thing I thought I saw all day. He says, I'm going to sound like Alex Jones, but I legit think that they ran a coup on Joe. Here's what I suspect we will find out to some degree or another. Probably never confirmed fully. I agree. I understand the coup they ran on Trump with the Pfizer warrant, so I'm cynical enough to imagine they would do this. They threw everything at Biden to get him to drop out. They tried to destroy his character, set him up with the debate, all the other character assassinations. Then Hunter and Jill put up a wall. The remaining avenue was to bribe them. I'm guessing they offered them pretty much anything. But the issue to me fundamentally is you can't offer something to the first lady better than another term. And you can't offer something to a father better than the pardon power if he has a son whose past crimes are not fully understood and who may be entangled with things that lead to future crimes. What did I tell you two boys? Like, I felt like the right thing to do if I was Hunter's dad would be to pardon him, right? If I had the power to do so. So where you end up is you have to reach deeper into the toolbox. The way I think this goes is you realize that the way to finally get capitulation is to have the public believe for a news cycle that Biden has dropped out of his own accord, but hasn't. In this scenario, it can't be walked back. Run it through. So to run this play, you really just need two things. You need a way to distribute an ostensible resignation from a credible source, and you need the candidate to be maximally incapacitated to respond. So you flip to the right comms people who can post to X, Twitter, and other social media. Then, this is dark, you send people into the White House with COVID. This is where crimes may have occurred, but it is basically a perfect crime. Then, once the candidate tests positive, you do a dry run to see if your flipped comms people end up getting blowback for posting something the candidate would never allow. What are they talking about? They're talking about the tweet Biden made a couple of days ago where he said, I'm sick. Right? And we talked about this on the last episode. That was bizarre.
Yep.
Hours later, they made a follow-up reply post that said of Elon Musk meddling in elections or something like that. But it was hours later. All right. You also now leak fake stories to the press that the candidate is eminently going to drop out. You line up party leadership to agree that if Biden resigns, they will line up the way you want. If things look good, you wait until the day the candidate is maximally ill during the course of COVID and blast out a resignation. As long as you have a solid cycle where the candidate can't even physically react and his family knows that the game theory now is against them. The public and even the party leadership is now set up entirely to accept the resignation, and many people who flipped have insane counter incentives to accept any claims by the candidate it was not intended. And the candidate, of course, wakes up a day later and realizes if they dispute the resignation, they lose everything. Instead, they now take the deal with the entire world already aligned on this new reality. I thought this was the most concise kind of conspiracy theory, I guess you could say.
And that's how you create a new timeline.
But I texted you before, Scagz. I sent you some, but they're literally in the debate when he was talking to Kamala, he predicted that he would get a disease and resign if they had any conflict of interest. Like he literally said it himself. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yep. It's true. He did. Yeah.
Sean, you see that?
Yeah, I see that. And the big hole in the plot is COVID is faking gays. So
love it. Love it. I agree.
Yeah, but, all right, but given the fact that he's got 1 foot in the grave, I could actually see whatever strain of COVID giving him a hard time,
or whatever,
especially because we know that the vacations don't do anything to prevent it, right? So
how did he get COVID if he's vaccinated? He must have not gone there.
Thanks, Cap.
37
I was trying to avoid the word, but there you go. Just the very next sentence. Look, man. I thought that was the most compelling also because even Politico ran an article where they said President Joe Biden announcement stunned White House and campaign aides, who up until this afternoon were insisting that he would stay in the race. Many of them, including some senior aides, first found out that was no longer the case by reading the letter that Biden posted on X. We're all finding out by tweet, said one Democrat familiar with the immediate reaction. None of us understand what's happening. In a sign of abruptness of Biden's decision, the campaign blasted out fundraising email for Joe and Kamala at 1:54 p.m., 8 minutes after Biden announced he was stepping aside. They also did somebody on the campaign also did a video in the morning on on
how he wasn't
or something, how he wasn't stepping down, and et cetera, et cetera.
See,
very contradictory to later on in the day.
They made
my two big
things. Like
my two big things for this is one, that literally the day of, earlier that day, he had members of his team saying, no, he's not going to step down. And then there's this, even if we're not in a conspiracy world, Joe Biden goes rogue and tweets out this tweet of him stepping aside.
If he actually tweets.
Yeah, exactly, which he doesn't to begin with. And we all know that. So was it really him sending that tweet? And two, I get it. He's sick. I get it. He's recovering. But there's been no appearance of him. He hasn't said a word until this phone call this afternoon. This is monumental, news that's going to change everything. So even if he was going to step down, to me, if I was running this campaign, all right, Joe's sick. He's recovering right now. He's decided he's going to step down. All right, at the end of the week, when he's feeling better, we're going to have this big press conference, and Joe's going to announce to the world. Not a rogue tweet a few hours after half your team just went on NBC to say you're not doing this. So I think those two are the most suspicious things of all.
What's the difference of a few days? It's bizarre. Yes. Why did it have to be Sunday?
Right.
They couldn't just wait 3 or 4 more days for him to say
he'll probably be better by tomorrow. and he'll be, and maybe by Wednesday, if he's really that sick and that sickly, he'll be strong enough to give a press conference from the Oval Office. Who cares? Wherever the hell he's recovering. Doesn't have to be no big thing.
You guys didn't see? I mean, I have it on my page, man. He did speak out about it, man. He's actually talking about all you haters too, man. He's not really happy about all the people talking crap about him. If you go to Kill the Mockingbirds podcast on Instagram, you can check out Joe saying for himself. I mean, I'm assuming that's him. I don't know which one's the real Joe Biden. So will the real Joe Biden please stand up, and then I'll figure it out. But at this moment, I think that's at play. But to me, the bigger picture is that it's the Democratic Party waving the white flag. I think they already know. Like, I predicted that, like, if he did, because why so late? It's 4 months before the election. They could have done this for a while. I mean, after the debate, they started slowly even more like, talking crap about him. But even before that, it was like 3 to 6 months ago, or maybe even longer. Nancy Pelosi was talking crap on him in a few interviews where she's like, I don't think his cognitive, I think we need someone else in there. I don't think he's able to maintain. I mean, that 25th Amendment thing has been laying on the table for a while. I think that if it is a soft coup, right, that they're trying to get him out, which I do believe that part. I think there's some kind of soft coup. I don't know if he even really has COVID or if that's a thing. Like, he's just is sick. I think they're trying to hold on to power because I think not any human, but a lot of these people in these positions want power is everything to them. So he's trying to hold on to power and quote unquote legacy, whatever that may be to him. And he's going to try to stay in. That's why he's not endorsing Kamala or anything like that.
Well, he did now.
But I think they're going to 25th Amendment. I think what's going to happen is either my super conspiracy side is that we're going to hear, and like by tomorrow, Joe Biden has passed away. Like, if we hear the death of Joe Biden, because now that is a play right there. If whether he died or maybe he's been dead or whatever, if he dies, that is the biggest play for the Democrats that can combat an attempted assassination, because the sympathy card, because what you're playing for is the public opinion. That is what you're playing for every time. I think presidents are selected, not elected, but I think they're selected through the public opinion, which is manipulated by the media and politicians and lobbyists and things of that nature. So right now we're seeing this unfold right before our eyes, where the Trump, even though I think it was a plot by the FBI, they're using that, obviously, because you will, right? You're going to push that forward. And the Joe Biden thing, they're trying to use that to wave the flag of have him like, hey, we're done. Because there's no way that Joe Biden was going to win anyways. But there's definitely no way that Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, even Big Mike, any of these people were going to beat Trump, especially after an attempted assassination. That makes you look like such a badass. Like, there's no way, like, whether you hate Trump or not, you see that and you see him getting up, whether you see it staged or not, it doesn't matter, because that
is public opinion
resonated in the public's mind. Like, look at him, man. This motherfucker they couldn't take him down. Now people are able to say they try to impeach him, they try to jail him, they try to do that, they try to kill him, and he's still here. So all that does is makes it such more explosive. It does the negative effect for you. And I don't think they wanted Trump dead either, because if the whole case is like, why did you run Biden in the first place in 2020? Like, why was all this? So that's why it's so confusing when people are like, oh, they had to steal the election. It's like, well, why was the Democrats even letting this old geezer, when at the time, if you really wanted to win public opinion, you would use an energetic young person? Or even when they stepped on Bernie, even though I disagree with Bernie, I think if you look at the perception of what people thought of him, they would have voted for him. And that's what you need. But it's like they intentionally put this rotten puppet right there in front of our eyes, the most puppet of any president we've ever seen. We could call all of them puppets, but this one where you're like, bro, there's no way.
Obvious.
There's somebody's hand literally up his ass while he's talking.
You're like, yeah, I see the hand, man. I see it.
You're like, yo, is that a pinky? What is that? I agree with all your guys' assessment, but I mean, selected, elected, we all are pretty much in agreement on that we don't have much of a choice. But the wild thing to me is watching the people supporting the Democratic Party, like I was saying, to Scagz and them earlier today, like, they haven't picked their own candidate since
Three cycles now.
Three cycles now. So
since Obama.
It's almost been over. It's been over a decade, almost 2 decades. So even like it's debatable. Like, I know it goes back to Bush, Gore, hanging chads. They picked it there. This, that, whatever, right? But if you're just going, let's say, back to the Democratic Party, right? they elected Bernie Sanders, and then they put Hillary in, and then they killed Seth Rich because he was so hurt that his own party cheated in their own picking of people, let's say, so we don't get pulled off of YouTube, right? Yeah. But they did that once. So like they literally witnessed it, not even on a national scale for both parties, but in their own party. Then we go to the next one, right? Bernie wins it again. Who do they put in? Joe Biden.
Well,
now,
Bernie,
everybody stepped down.
You're talking about 2020, the 2020 cycle, right? Where Bernie was leading, and then on the same day, everyone dropped out except for Elizabeth Warren, who was like policy-wise kind of similar to Bernie, and it was Biden, Bernie, and Elizabeth Warren, right? And then the vote total split, and Biden kind of came out ahead because of that, because the progressive vote total split between Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, and Biden took the lion's share after that. But it was not, like, what are the odds that everyone else dropped out and endorsed Biden on the exact same day?
Yeah.
Like there was no phone call behind the scenes to coordinate that. Come on now.
So that happens, right? But then Joe actually wins his primary, and now look what they're doing. They're taking him out again, and they're picking who you have to go for again.
It's literally that is democracy. That's democracy, pal.
That's what we have to do to defend democracy.
But it's been happening for 3 cycles now, guys.
Like, you got to destroy democracy to protect it.
But the wild thing is like, how my simpleton ass can see that? And
I always say
people that are trying to support these people do not see it. I mean, they literally murdered your guy, Seth Rich, because he wanted to let the rest of the people know they were going against, Scagz' old war buddy there, Bernie Sanders, right? But like, we're seeing it happen real time, and now I think the reason he did get in again, what Sean was saying, is why would they even put that old man in? I agree with you that, but like, he's the perfect patsy. He's the perfect patsy.
He was the most controlled individual at the time.
Most controlled, and if you want to say that we're influenced by other nations, he had the most underlying bribe deals with all these other nations that we are fully supporting and sending billions upon billions of dollars every day.
He was the point man on Ukraine. Don't forget that, right? He was inextricably tied to that whole scenario when it went down in 2014. Now he's president. It's a full-blown war, all the money laundering, all that stuff there. Yeah, I agree. I think he was just the perfect puppet.
But all this goes away.
He also has
he
has no real backbone, right? Like, yes, they're selected, not elected. But in a sense, if you get up to that position and then, what was that movie, Pulp Fiction, right? Where you have like a moment where you're like, you know what? No, I'm just going to go do the right thing. Dude, you're the president. Like, you have a pulpit. You can you can rally people to your cause from having the pulpit, right? They don't want that. They don't want someone who's going to like change their mind at the last second and do something like that. No, they want someone who's just going to follow orders, do as they say. And in this regard, I felt like probably the team, the family, didn't want to give up, so they had to run this psyop on them, this pressure campaign to get them to bow
I think
out.
They also don't want to give up the power because all of them are scared to death of going to jail.
And you profit off of it too. Let's be real.
And they've made so much money. And if people find out, which we all know, how much money they made and how much they really screwed the country and all the other sick shit that they've done, like, I think they're scared right now. Like, I think they did a backyard deal and they got him out, and whoever's going to come in is going to
Joe had to die.
And this is like, hey, like you said, he woke up from the coma, can't backtrack it, and they had him sign an agreement like, we'll pardon and take care of you. You're stepping down, and he's like, wait, I was in a coma. Like, what happened?
Right. Yeah. Also, now again, like, you can't. Everyone has now kind of come out and endorsed Kamala. Right, like,
pretty much,
which is wild to me.
It's wild. It is kind of wild. Even AOC, who AOC a week ago was basically saying how like all these party insiders. She was like, these party insiders who are trying to like pick who it's going to be, and including Kamala. Like, that's not how things work or whatever. And then on Sunday, she's like, "Yep, I'm endorsing Kamala."
She got that phone call. She got the phone call to get in line. Yeah.
Sean,
I was going to say though, Joe had to die regardless. Because think of this,
he dies, he dies.
Yeah, he had to die anyway. Because if Trump does win or does get selected, whatever you want to say, like, there's no way Joe gets out of this unscathed. If he dies, all the conspiracies that surround him go with him. So he had to be expendable regardless as a contingency plan. As far
and
as
it
I'm
takes
concerned.
away all the problems for them having to explain
Yep.
Hunter's laptop and his daughter's diary and all the pedophilia.
Old man,
and
you
all
see the talking
shit.
point they all have. Donald Trump is too old to be president.
Now, man, Twitter is just
tweeting now. Yeah,
so pathetic now.
He's the oldest person to ever run.
I still agree with, man. I think I've been saying from the get-go they're both too old. I don't like and I will say I do not like, and I don't like him in general, but I really, really don't like JD Vance especially because I'm a Michigan guy and he went to stupid ass Ohio State. I could never vote for anybody that ever went to that disgusting toilet bowl of a school, man. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I only like him because he likes Lord of the Rings. So that's it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, JD Vance was a surprise for me. I mean, there's a lot of, let's say, scrupulous stuff.
It still doesn't matter to me that if Trump didn't need a vice president, he wouldn't have a VP.
Yeah, very true.
JD Vance is just another VP in a long line of people who are going to get a paid vacation for 4 years.
Let's play the video because it had, of course, like this news cycle is moving so quickly.
Very fast.
We hadn't heard from Biden at all for real, but now apparently we've heard from him. I'll play the video. I believe Kamala is giving a speech and Biden calls into the speech. So we don't actually physically see him, but he calls in. I'll play the video and we could comment on it.
Watch how this goes, folks.
President Biden calling into this campaign event.
COVID keep me out of people's hair for the next 3 or 4 days. But I'm going to be on the road, and I'm not going anywhere. It's kept me away a little bit, but I want people to remember that what we have done has been incredible, and we get so much more we're going to get done. And so I want to say hello to Kamala if she can hear me. I know she's going to be speaking shortly, and I want to say to the team, embrace her. She's the best. I want to call today to thank everybody in this effort. I know yesterday's news was surprising and it was hard for you to hear, but it was the right thing to do. I know it's hard because you poured your heart and soul into me to help us win this thing. Help me get this nomination. Help me win the nomination, and then go on to win the presidency. But you're an amazing team. But we've got a great. I think we made the right decision. I know how hard you've worked, how many sacrifices you made, and so many of you uprooted your lives for me, and the kind of commitments few people make for anything these days, but you made it. And I've been honored and humbled. I mean, this is from the bottom of my heart. My word as a Biden, that for all you've done for me and my family. And we built the best campaign in organization.
I guess bitch just gets out on her phone.
I was just going to say, she's just texting.
The president is speaking at an event that you're on camera on, and she pulls out her phone.
Dude, that's because she's probably trying to stop the recording.
She's laughing
and recording over now.
She's laughing and texting her friends going, I can't believe they're buying this shit.
No, I think it's like an Ashley Simpson moment, like where you don't, it's awkward, and she's like, because it would be kind of weird that everybody's looking at you and you're like, yeah, president's on the phone. Like, I don't even know why he didn't, like, you can't Skype or Zoom, bro. Like,
because he's not alive.
Yeah, or something's up for sure. That's what makes me wonder what's really going on.
Yeah.
Well, do you have the video of
we don't have to keep playing. It's 4 minutes.
No. Does Kamala come on after this lady?
Maybe. I didn't watch this whole thing. Look at this.
Because when Kamala comes on, she literally has a Freudian slip and the record Joe's still on the phone with us, right? Like, she basically tells you it's a recording.
Yeah, I could find that.
I know
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, you did.
Because I mean, that's the whole thing. This is moving so fast, and she's so unintelligent. She's gonna make fuck ups.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
we all can all agree that this is
wild. It's wild.
You thought Biden gaffes were gonna be good and memes?
That's what I was saying to someone today. I was like, it's wild to have sat through most of Biden's presidency and just see the ridiculous things that he said, and now Kamala is gonna come up there and just put on a clinic.
Out of the water.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to look like in 4 months, by the time the election comes around, people are going to be like, damn, maybe we should knock her out of the race and put Joe back in.
So kind of going off of what Sean was saying, I think they're putting her in because they know she can't win either, because not even 1% of her own party liked her, right? So I think she's gonna take the arrows for this, and they didn't want to sully any of maybe their big mics or their Newsoms or anything with such a hard 4 months and a terrible ass whooping like that they'll take at the poll. I think they're just gonna ride it. Plus, the other thing I saw them coming up with, like, what is it, Brooklyn Dad? He was saying, oh, they raised $83 million for Kamala. I'm like, it just happened 6 hours ago. Do you mean they transferred the funds? Like, what are you talking about?
Well, no, the big donors released all the money that they were holding up to try and, as part of the pressure campaign, to get them to drop out.
Oh, so it is a coup d'etat. Gotcha.
Yes, correct. This is the video you're talking about, by the way.
Yeah.
It is so good to hear our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call.
Here.
You're talking every day. Joe, I know you're still on the call. And
is this shit fake? I mean, come on now. Like, is this entire scenario fake? I don't mean this video, but this makes me question everything. Is she just that bad that she almost has a Freudian slip there?
No, she is.
All of this a show. Sean, help me out here, man. I don't know.
Well, she's like the female version of George W., man. Like, imagine this was with George W. He'd be like, oh, well, guys, oops. Like,
you're right. You're so right.
Yeah, remember when he said, Putin's illegal invasion of Iraq? Remember when he said that instead of
and then he'll sit there and be like, with the squinty eyes and like
my favorite thing of George W. all the time was that, what did he say? The whole fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. You're not gonna fool me again.
You're just not gonna.
Like, that's the thing you should just know. It's not like, some things you can understand, like, you might have been in that region. It's like, hey man, like, everybody knows what that means. Like, how do you fuck that part up? Like, that's like the simplest thing. But it's
a Rickyism.
Rickyism.
Just trying to get my 10th, just trying to get my 10th grade, bro. And
yeah, a grade 10. Yeah,
grade 10. My
boys reference there.
Well, it's time to put some turnips in heat.
Yeah, I mean,
smokes.
Any other last final thoughts on this one? We'll shift over.
I think we could shift cases of the absolute slaughtering of the Secret Service.
I have my last. This isn't. I think we'll be having another emergency podcast.
We'll have to make this a regular thing. Soon. Tinfoil.
Tinfoil edition.
Tinfoil edition. I like that. All right, so there was so many videos of her getting roasted, which in of itself is interesting. Today. In of itself is interesting. How many videos there are of the Secret Service?
Before you play this, Scagz, I want to make a comment. You're saying how many videos of this there are. This is kind of like a new tactic that. Well, it's not. I might not. It could. It's like a tactic. I won't say it's new, but like, remember when all the videos and all the information came out about Trump, to the point that the actual assassination attempt story starts to get distorted, that they're just releasing video and comment.
Yeah.
And here you go again. I feel like this is a tactic to still continuously discredit and confuse the American public about what went on.
Yeah, I think so. We're talking about the director of the Secret Service gave testimony today in Congress about Trump's assassination, and she did so bad.
She didn't give nothing.
She didn't, which we're going to cover. She did so bad.
She did testimony because that's what testimonies are, man. It's just a bunch of blowhards. Everybody's now. I will say a lot of people gave good things, and then not everybody. But for the most part, when I see these things, I could tell they're either trying to get on CNN or Fox or Hannity, like where they're like, "Oh, I really got that guy, didn't I?" Like, you know what I mean?
The 30-second soundbite.
Yeah.
So what I think about this whole thing is that she did so bad, and there's so many great clips of her getting shat on. It can't be real. There's no way, right? Like, there's no way the head of the Secret Service, like I told you guys back when I was in high school, Secret Service came to my school and they put on a whole presentation, and they were badass, smart dudes, strong.
Yeah, but that was before DEI.
Maybe you want to blame it on DEI, right? But I'm still going to say that the head of the Secret Service has to be somewhat qualified to give a presentation or speak on a Secret Service situation. But she couldn't get any of that right.
At least to show some kind of strength, right?
Something.
But in my opinion, like, before we get into all of that, like, just like in the Afghanistan situation with the generals, like in my belief, and I get it, like you're supposed to just step down.
Yeah.
Like, just like the general.
Thank you.
Even though it's not your fault, like I'm not gonna even say it's all her fault, right? You know, there's underlings that could have messed up, but as being the face, if I'm the football team and I lose the Super Bowl, it's all me, right? Like even though the player didn't catch the ball or he didn't do the plays that I told, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I didn't do enough to prevent the situation. And the right thing to do in these situations is step down. Whether you're right or wrong doesn't matter. But because of this whole, I'm a woman, and I know they're going to use that. And I don't think it's the whole the whatever the hell, DIY, EI, like whatever, all these acronyms nowadays, man. I'm getting too old and starting to get old, man, where I'm just like, what are all these letters, man? Just tell me what you're saying.
Fucking letters.
So I agree. I think the reason why she hasn't stepped down yet is because they wanted a public crucifixion.
Yep.
Right. I think she will step down now in the next couple of days because of this. Everyone's going to point to this and be like, you see, this is why it happened, because of incompetence. This lady was in charge of the Secret Service, and she was so incompetent that the
CIA
went
and
down
the
the
FBI
line.
had nothing to do with this.
It was this lady's fault. That's what happened. Don't look the other way.
That's the problem. That's the problem with all of this. Because once she steps down, or, you know, she's the bad guy now. Doesn't matter that there was an actual shooter. Doesn't matter that there might have been a second shooter. She's the bad guy. Once she steps down, the crime of the assassination attempt on a former president can now go away.
So let's watch some of this.
Man.
It's unbelievably bad, and I don't mean that unbelievably. Usually, it means like a good thing. No, I mean it, and it's like not believable how bad she is in this entire thing. So, anytime you want to chime in, I'll stop. It's about 4 minutes, and then there's a Marjorie Taylor Greene one I want to play a couple minutes of, which was interesting. There was just so many; it was hard to even decide which clips to play from this whole thing.
Yeah, we had a lot.
Here now recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas. How did a 20-year-old loner with a week's notice pick the absolute best location to assassinate President Trump when the entire Secret Service missed it? Director Cheadle, in your leadership, your agency got outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old. How can we have any confidence that you could stop a trained professionals from a nefarious nation state?
Those are absolutely questions that we need.
No, they're questions, but the fact of the matter is we can't have that confidence. Director, do you have the ability personally, and do you have the authority to beef up security of any of your protectees?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So were you also aware there was a credible threat President Trump was facing? He was facing a heightened security threat to a foreign adversary?
Yes.
Okay. So given that there was an increased threat to President Trump's life, was he provided a full security complement akin to what a sitting U.S. president would receive?
He was provided a full complement of security based on the threat assessment that we had.
That's not my question.
And the venue.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the sitting president.
So your answer is he didn't.
And continuity of government and the responsibility.
He did not. Okay, there wasn't a CAT team, full CAT team on site.
Quick.
There wasn't counter. Gentleman
yields back. I'm not trying to be like, but man, this woman is a dog, man. Like, you know how like Trump needs to talk about it. She's a dog face. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, she looks kind of tough, right? But
yeah, she does.
She looks like she would be like tough, but I think that just how he's questioning her, they have to know, or some people have to know there, that the FBI was in on this in some sense.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that they were necessarily really trying to assassinate Trump. I think that it's a plan that went wild and like, oh crap, like there's too many things that are inconsistent. And is there another shooter? We don't know. Was the other dude? I don't know all those questions. For all we know, that guy didn't shoot, and there was another shooter at this water tower because there's plenty of people.
That got asked. That actually got asked to her.
Yeah, that did get asked to her today too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she is a dog. She's definitely the one that wears the strap on in the relationship. But like, but I mean, she's a hard ass, but she's like taking the thing is the first clip you're playing is a man questioning her, right? So like, you know, she's holding her ground and doing that. But when you see the women like just hammering her, like how women can go at each other, like the men still have to be like somewhat reserved, because it looks like they're bullying her. You know, she's in the perfect position. She's a woman. They're just bullying her, even though she did the biggest fuck up in U.S. history. Well, one of them, right? But like, I just love the part after this, like the girls are hammering her and they're asking all the questions that the American public wants an answer to, and her hands are tied. She doesn't know anything, and like
refers to the FBI.
Refers to the FBI because they're so trusted. I'm so sick of hearing, oh, let's have the people who did it investigate themselves.
So
like,
I have one comment, because there is a problem in Congress amongst the millions and millions of problems that we have. But if you guys have noticed, we've all been doing podcasts for about the same amount of time. Since, COVID, just before COVID, all the way up till July of 2024. And every time there's this big thing that happens and people are angry with this particular individual, they get brought in by Congress and questioned, and there's subpoenas and all this stuff. And if you look at like people like Anthony Fauci, and now Kimberly Cheetos or whatever,
Garland and all.
Yeah, and Garland. There's this problem that I see where nobody answers a question. They all kick the rock down the road. They all pass the buck. No information is given. There's no guilty verdicts. There's no escalation of investigation. We don't get any answers. All we're getting out of this is she's the face of being the bad guy now. She's going to get punished, and this is over. We have to change this system where if we have to strap you and tie you to this chair and beat the answers out of you, you will give us a yes or no answer. You know what I mean? Like,
the problem is
again.
The problem is the Congress and all of them, they can subpoena you and they can question you, but then they have to refer you to the people that they're actually questioning and want them out. Like Garland, like, who are you going to refer the case to? When the top guy you're going after, like, he's gonna be like, "Yep, charge me," and I'm gonna run the investigation on
Congress
me.
and
I'm
the
gonna
senators.
the person who's gonna,
they're not the real
me.
Government. They're just window dressing, right? Like these people, the deep state, whatever you want to call it. They're permanent Washington, as maybe Vivek would call it. Right?
Bureaucrats.
That's the real government, and they are, unaccountable. They really are.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Because it's all the people that are appointed. They're not elected. They're appointed to these positions, and they stay there all the time.
Yep, I do think she will have to step down here, right? But first, like I said, they needed a public figure to crucify. She was it. So I bet my bottom dollar in the next couple of days she will resign. So let's keep going, because this is interesting. It's funny also, and then we got Marjorie Taylor Greene's we were talking about before. Garrett, the women beating up on her. All interesting. Good. You know what it is? It makes great reality TV. That's exactly what.
Polytainment, political entertainment.
Security threat to a foreign adversary.
Yeah, based on the threat assessment that we had.
That's not my question.
And the venue.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
Sorry, I skipped back before.
But this is the thing. You just said you had the ability to beef up the security. You knew about the threat, and you didn't. And that's as telling as it is telling. We have satellite images from the Butler Fairgrounds. Have you visited the site?
No, I have not.
Not visited the site.
Not a good look.
Yeah, like, come on now. How does that make any sense?
The
person in charge doesn't go there.
Doesn't care.
It gets better, boys.
Did you talk to that evening? Did you talk to the team, the heroes that surrounded the president? Did you call them that night?
They were still operational work.
So that's an answer is no. Did you call them the next day?
President. Yes, I spoke with.
You called them the very next day, not the day of, or was it 72 hours after?
I don't know the timeline, but I spoke with them.
Okay, because you're under oath.
Immediately following.
I think it was 72 hours after. You waited 3 days. What is immediately clear is that there are a number of structures that need to be secured. Of these, Director, other than the first, immediate 4, what's the most dangerous site that should have been secured? Because security 101, you got to mitigate the high ground.
Yes.
It's over.
You know what the next most dangerous site? What was the closest structure to the president, other than the 4 immediate ones that you had your counter sniper teams on?
There are a number of structures around that event site.
You know who the shooter knew? The shooter has visited the site 2 more times than you have, and he had a drone, and he picked the AGR building. So you said, do you remember in an ABC interview you did that you didn't have people on the roof of the AGR building because you were worried about safety because of the slope?
I recall that statement.
Okay.
Watch this.
Does the Secret Service have written policy you can share with us about slope roofs?
No.
She's like, oh, fuck.
So why'd you act like there was one? Because is it your practice to comment on enormous events of enormous national implications when you're ignorant of the facts? That's rhetorical. So here's this thing with the slopes. You go all up to like 1812. You can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat. And you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof. So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure. You want to know why? Because it's dangerous. I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life. It was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events in Savoy, Texas. We recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a sloped roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew that he had a scope. I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots. And the one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me. It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey Comparatore's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof. And it wasn't the roof that was dangerous. It was a nut job on top of the roof. You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful. And you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos. Mr. Chairman,
Look, I like Doritos, all right? Don't insult the Doritos, all right?
Garden Doritos.
What do you think about that one, boys?
That's fantastic.
He just ripped her apart. I think we should. I don't know if we have a hard stop. I know I got to get out of here in a couple of minutes because I got to finish packing. But I think we should just go right into Marjorie Taylor Greene, just rip it into her because it's like over and over. And like when we're telling you, we probably sent each other 70 videos of this.
You guys,
me and Scagz went on a warpath back and forth.
You guys, I don't know how you guys worked a second today.
This one's a little bit on the longer side. It's going to be about 5 minutes. I do want to watch the whole thing because at the very end is the most interesting part. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is the only person who asks the question that we probably would have all asked, and that is at the very end. But it's good, so let's just comment that. I got no hard stop time today. If you got to go, Garrett, you just go. It's fine.
Yeah, I can just. I have a couple.
Why was Crooks able to fly a drone over the entire area the day of the rally and the day of his assassination attempt?
To my knowledge, he did not fly the drone over the entire area.
How did he fly a drone over the area, period? Any part of the area?
Again, I would have to go back and check the timeline of when that took place and when the event.
Why didn't you bring the timeline with you today to answer our questions?
I don't have all of the answers on the timelines based on the criminal investigation.
Were you not prepared today to answer our questions?
I am prepared to answer the questions based on the information and wanted to be able to provide.
Do you have a timeline do you have a timeline at all from any of the day?
I have a timeline that does not have specifics.
That's shocking. That is absolutely unacceptable.
That one got a reaction out of the crowd. Everyone laughed. How do you have a timeline without any specifics? That makes no sense.
So does the timeline just say, all right, it was 3 o'clock, and then it was 3:30, and then it was 4 o'clock?
That's it. Just timeline on the bottom, and it's got like the bar here and here, and that's it.
Keep in mind, man, this is official on the record testimony by the head of the Secret Service.
This is like standard procedure, man. There's no answers ever given. We saw everybody on the social media stuff. We see like you could go through the list. There's always these hearings, and it's just like that's
what I was saying before.
Yeah, don't do that, you idiot. Don't ever do that again. But then they do the same thing, and nothing happens.
I know.
She does seem disinterested at this point too. She's probably she's all after.
She realizes that, oh man,
her goose is cooked.
I'm the sacrificial lamb. So she might not have been privy to some of this FBI information, and she's like, I got cooked, bro.
Maybe
like they see me right there, like I got the rug pulled out from underneath me, and now I have nothing to say because I have to be careful with my answers because I would like to get a job in the next 2 years because she is going to step down at some point.
Stay out of prison.
Yeah, or stay out of prison.
Yeah,
really.
or prison. Yeah.
Acceptable. That means you are a failure at your job. Let's talk about things that are prohibited in Trump rallies. And I've been to a lot of Trump rallies. Backpacks and bags, bicycles, firearms, any type of weapon or any other item determined to be a potential safety hazard, like a rangefinder would be one. At 5:10, Crooks is first observed by one of the snipers, AGR Sniper 1, at the building. 5:10, President Trump was shot in the face at 6:11 p.m. 5:28, AGR Sniper 1 takes a picture of a bicycle and 2 bags. Those belong to Crooks. 5:32, AGR Sniper 1 spots Crooks looking at his phone and using a rangefinder. 5:55, Butler ESU Command confirms receipt of photos and states they have been relayed on. 6:05 p.m., AGR Sniper 1 later communicates that Crooks is seen moving northeast in direction of Sheetz and that Crooks has a backpack. 2 minutes before the shooting, while President Trump has been allowed to take the stage, people see Crooks laying on his stomach in a sniper position on the roof, and they're yelling he has a gun, and they are trying to alert law enforcement and Secret Service. Why was Crooks not shot by the snipers? Why was he allowed to be there?
As soon as the individual was identified as a threat, they were
No. What do you consider to be a threat? A man with a gun laying in a sniper position, a man that had a backpack, a man that had a bicycle, a man that had a rangefinder. At what point is he determined a threat?
An individual with a backpack is not a threat. An individual with a rangefinder is not a threat.
What about a man laying on a building that has direct line of sight of President Trump with a gun that people are screaming and pointing out? Is that a threat, Ms. Cheadle?
Once that individual was identified, they were neutralized.
No, they were
after he shot.
Crooks was neutralized.
I'm also going to contest that if you have a rangefinder, you're not a threat. The only reason you would have a rangefinder is because you are a threat. The only time I ever use a rangefinder is when I'm a threat to deer or to like a target at the range.
Or
perhaps when you're golfing
to the hole in one.
Right.
No.
That,
when you're the threat to whiffing it wide left.
Yes. But for the most part, if you have a rangefinder on you, you are some sort of threat to something.
Yep.
After he shot President Trump in the face, Ms. Cheadle, is he only a threat once he fires the weapon?
As soon as the counter sniper identified that individual, they were able to neutralize them.
How were people in the crowd? Okay, then let's just take it this way. People under your command did not consider him to be a threat, yet people in the crowd knew he had a gun and considered him to be a threat. That means that you are a complete failure as the director of the Secret Service, that people under your command don't perceive a man laying on a roof with direct line to the president with a gun. They don't perceive that to be a threat, yet the people in the crowd do. How is that possible?
That's the last question, but please answer the
preposterous,
question,
it really is.
Director.
I'm not certain at this time how the information from the people in the crowd was relayed to any law enforcement personnel.
No, you knew that everyone knew. The people there knew that there was a danger. They knew there was a threat to President Trump, and it was allowed to happen. Was there a stand down order, Ms. Cheadle? Was there a conspiracy to kill President Trump?
Absolutely not.
Then how did this happen?
Okay, so if you watch any of the other clips as well, she spends the entire time basically giving non-answers. She doesn't know anything. It's all non-answers, etc. But when she's asked this question, was there a conspiracy to kill Donald Trump? Absolutely not. That's the only definitive answer she is able to give throughout all the hours of her testimony here on
So
Capitol
then,
Hill.
do you know what that means?
Yeah, the chick next to her, Miss McLean. I know he sent her little soundbite test or line of questioning because I think they get about 5 minutes or something. She tore into her something fierce as well. And then you had what's that lady we like from Florida?
Oh, Anna Paulina Luna, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Good looking one, yeah.
We love you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's pretty wild, and it's crazy. We're even still having these conversations.
Yeah.
Like, we all know what happened. Just crucify these people already. Like, come on.
One thing that I don't understand is because it's very well known that even when Trump was his president, like I know you got Secret Service, he has his own security detail as well.
Yep.
So I want to understand that, like, I get the Secret Service and, you know, the FBI people that, but how come we're not scrutinizing his own security as well? Because you would think that somebody, and I get the whole position. Now I could be just telling it myself because I get it, the whole chain of command. Maybe they just fall in line to that. That is,
well, that's what I'm thinking.
Well,
can his security override social?
No,
you don't Secret Service
they
security.
can't.
So they're probably a layer.
So you know, like when you're watching like Law and Order and like the NYPD is at a crime scene and the FBI shows up and now the NYPD goes home.
Over. Yeah.
So anytime Secret Service is on the scene, especially when there is a president, they are top tier in charge. So even Trump's own team would be a layer beneath
from that.
Yes. But also what I think, and I'm not 100% sure, so don't take my word for it. Now that he's coming up on the nominee and all this stuff, his team might be smaller than when it was 6 months ago,
or less control at least. Like,
right.
You know, and he might have. And another thing that I've always found interesting is like when you see famous people, their security guards, and I get it. Like Secret Service are supposed to be badass, like the best in the world. I mean, that's the way that we paint them. But like, when you see a famous person, there's nothing but 6'5", 6'8", 450-pound men.
The WWE champion walking with him, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a big dude, so you need a body that just covers his Harry Henderson ass, you know, like.
if I'm president, my Secret Service needs to be like, I don't care. I'm 6 foot. I'm not super tall, but I need some guys that are 6'8", like that are so big that I'm like, if they could take, like the bullet's going to get stuck in their stomach. Like it's not going to get to me at all. That's what I don't understand. I'm like, and he
got the DEI team that day.
Yeah,
he did.
And remember, Jill did take some of his the priority, because remember, Jill was in Pennsylvania as well. Joe Biden.
So look, him getting the DI team would play into the fact that what I think happened is that they created a space for the guy that they radicalized to then do this.
Yeah. No, is there any truth to
an opening for him?
Is there any truth to this is the first time? Is there any truth to this is the first time CNN aired one of his rallies?
Yeah, we've been talking about this because I mean,
I never looked into it because I don't think it's real either.
They've played rallies of his.
No, they've played replays of rallies. They haven't shown them live.
Right.
Nobody's
they
shown
definitely have. I remember during 2016, during that.
No, 2016,
2016, yes,
but not
4
since.
years ago.
Okay,
but not since.
Yeah.
They have
20 years in 2020. The corporate press hated him so much that if he was going to speak, they would actively not air it.
Yeah, remember Mowdow and all that being like, we're not going to show this because you don't need to see this.
Because remember, the funny thing about it, like, first of all, when they were talking the most crap on Trump, CNN, the lead producer was Jeff Zucker, who was also the guy that was in charge of talent that put The Apprentice on. And then now the guy that owns CNN is John Malone, who's a huge Trump supporter. Like, so it's just funny how everybody's like, oh, well, this, and I get it though. Like, they're violent.
They've been closing down CNN. Like, they closed down their headquarters in Atlanta and all that stuff.
Yeah, and they're rebranding it because remember, they got taken out of the airports, which was probably huge revenue right there. Because that 24/7, you're gonna have
all their viewership. That was all their fake viewership.
I think that they're really rebranding it, and we're going to start seeing like that's
they have no other choice but to rebrand.
I think it's going to swing to like a right-wing propaganda page.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. And I think that everything's painting in that. So the pendulum's swinging on everything now. Whether we can all argue on what happened, because I think that we can all agree that just from the attempted assassination to where we are right now with Biden stepping down, it's a very weird, even though a lot of this stuff was predictable, like we've seen these like cards about to play or drop, it just feels so eerie, like that movie sense of you're like, this just doesn't seem real.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like something that really happened. There's something more to it. And there is for sure. Just like 9/11, when it was like, man, this thing is crazy, too crazy. And so many of these events happen, like the shorting of Trump, right? Shorting him, that's huge. And then to hear
that nobody was talking about that either.
Larry Fink possibly be the Treasury.
I saw that, which that one, that's one of those things that raises my eyebrows, and I always like to bring up to, like, let's say a MAGA supporter friend of ours. But then at the same time, on the other hand of that, how many articles that I see saying that he was going to pick Nikki Haley as
we don't know right now.
Yeah.
Right. So
and
we don't know for certain.
You've also seen him saying that he was going to pick what's his name, Chase Bank, Jamie Dimon as one of the things.
That one will probably happen. I think that one I feel like is going to go down.
But Larry Fink was in charge of the Fed, and he did appoint him to the Fed. So there's
he also isn't he the CEO of BlackRock?
Yeah, he was
which is funny because the building that this guy got onto was owned by BlackRock.
Mm-hmm.
If that does end up happening, I want to see what the cope is going to be from Trump supporters. Like when we bring that up to them, like,
no, it's
Trump
terrible.
If that does happen, and we're like, why did Trump just put the guy in charge of BlackRock in charge of this key government agency? I'd like to see what pretzel they twist themselves into.
In their defense, I will give them I'm giving them not a pass but leeway in a lot of the MAGA supporters right now, because it's hard, man. If you're already bought in hard on Trump, and then this attempted assassination, this solidifies everything that you've ever thought. You know what I mean? So I can't even be mad at them to be blinded by some of it, because I understand that they've been propagandized to a point. Whether I'm not saying that Trump's the word, because the other end of it that pisses me off is that there is a lot of questions about Trump, and the supporters don't want to answer it because the other side is painting this picture that he's the worst ever in the existence of the world. Like they're like, oh, the baby Hitler scenario. And here's an idea for all the
Antichrist is sitting on top of the throne.
Here's a little bit for everybody that uses the little baby Hitler scenario. Hey, here's the thing. How about instead of killing the baby Hitler, how about raise him right and show him and lead him in the right direction instead of like, hey, let me kill a baby.
I also use this scenario when this thing first happened. I'll say it again. It's not the perfect comparison, right? But it's two guys everyone knows, and it's references everyone uses, right? Like Hitler and Stalin, I'm sure they wanted to assassinate each other, right? But that didn't mean that they were both good guys, or that one was a good guy and the other one was the bad guy. Bad guys want to assassinate each other all the time. So that doesn't, just because someone gets attempted assassinated, doesn't necessarily, validate that they are the savior, the chosen one, the right person.
It's easier to make that argument.
Sure, it is. It is.
But it's like now all the conservative Christians are like, see the touch of God, and I believe in God. So let me not like think that I'm going against. Like I have my own values of what I think God, and it's more lean towards Christianity because I believe in Jesus Christ, but I don't practice any certain religion. But I think that they're able to get these evangelists now, like, see, it's a miracle and this happened.
Well,
you
very easily
however you want. And I think me and Scagz are more on the same level of what we think. I feel like it's just this political mafias. It's different political mafias that
I say it all the time. They're crime families, bro.
Yeah, that's what it is.
100%. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up with a couple tweets of the week and we get out of here, because it's running a little late here. It's all good.
But.
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead.
All right. Let's do a couple tweets of the week. I actually got a couple good ones. I saw you got one, Cap, right here at the last second, a buzzer beater. My first one is from, hang on. Sorry, I forgot this freaking StreamYard thing. It's every time when we get to this. So first one's from Toad, Tower Gang Toad. It says, with Kamala Harris in the race, Chase Oliver is going to have an even harder time differentiating himself. He now can't even say he's the only candidate willing to suck cock for the job.
He's hilarious.
That's fucking amazing.
All right, Cap, we'll go to yours next.
All right. Biden almost Biden was almost full term, so the Democrats had to abort him.
Very true.
Yep, that's it. That was my tweet. I picked Alan's tweet of that exact same thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's maybe where Alan got it from, or maybe vice versa. I don't know. Everybody's stealing each other's funny lines.
I think the assassination best one was, I don't know if you guys saw the meme of where like it had the woman Secret Service on the side and then the men covering her and then they put the wage gap.
Yes. Yes.
I did see that. Yeah.
That one was classic. I was like, this is the perfect. I thought that one. There were some good ones in Call of Duty, but that one.
Did you see the ones where like remember Pat from Saturday Night Live and
the
her, and then Andy Milonakis? Dude, that chick looked exactly like Andy Milonakis.
I've seen a couple now with Biden stepping
like
out. Yep, of Kamala, wheeling him in a wheelchair off the side of a cliff.
Oh yeah,
that one's a classic. Yeah, man, I've been having a great time as things have been escalating.
It's
been very fun. A lot of funny moments.
They almost killed the former president and maybe future president. Isn't it funny? Look at this meme.
It's hysterical. Ron Paul would say, "You gotta be like the happy warrior,"
Yeah. Dave Smith said it in his last podcast. He goes, media and politics are soon just going to be comedy for podcasters.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they're just going to provide us clips to make fun of. That's what the podcasting community is going to be.
I think that helps us spread the message that it's all like Sean said, fake and gay.
Fake and gay.
I think we'll wrap it up there. Everybody can plug themselves. I think one topic that we're going to keep an eye on that is coming up next is something me and Captain talked about a couple weeks ago. Benjamin Netanyahu is coming now. He might be here now.
He's here now.
He's going to address.
He is. I saw
probably.
And funny enough, since he couldn't get a meeting with Joe Biden, apparently now is that what you're going to say?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was funny now. I mean, it's speculation, but he was supposed to have a meeting with Biden, and instead he chose to have a meeting with President Trump.
I don't know if that's official.
That's what I'm saying. That's speculation. That's why I started off. I didn't say it was fucking official.
I didn't hear you say that.
Hey, don't challenge Scagz on his favorite dictator. All right,
I know on his favorite dictator.
So yeah, we'll definitely do an episode covering his speech and deprogramming the propaganda.
That would be telling, though, if he went to see Trump instead of the next president, Kamala. Because technically, dude, we might wake up in a day or two and Kamala Harris is our fucking president.
I really think that is a very, very likely scenario. I saw him at camp. I could see the sob story speech now. I went to Camp David. He was in a room. It was very he died with Jill and his children and me by his side, and his last words were, "You got this, Kamala. You're going to be a great president."
Followed by a racial slur that he
says.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's today, but yesterday was tomorrow, and the day after that's today, though.
That's here.
So what is it really ever yesterday?
That's what buses do. Yeah,
dude, she's the worst.
She's not gonna win. You can hear it here first. I would tell you that there is less than a 1% chance that she wins this election. I don't
even think she's going to be the nominee. I don't even think she's going to be the nominee.
Right? It's the perfect trash can to put up against them, where they're like, she can take all the arrows, like Garrett said.
No, yeah, 100%.
And you can push forward, like, hey, look, this idea of we need a woman, so it might seed the futures of AOC and Big Mike and Gretchen Whitmore, because a lot of people want it to be Gavin, but Gavin, I think he's destined to be a VP, man. Sorry,
too white, and too big of a penis.
Always the bridesmaid and never the bride.
Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Sean, why don't you plug your show again? Garrett, anything you want to plug, go for it. Both of you guys. Garrett,
Kill the Mockingbirds on all podcast platforms. Definitely check it out on the podcast 2.0 platforms. And you can follow me at Sean Chris, KTMB on Twitter or, Instagram. KillTheMockingbirds.com. We'll be back up in a couple weeks. But, had a fun time, man. Always good in here.
Garrett?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me over at IG, Garrett Goldsberry. Check it out. I share a bunch of stuff, and we do a lot of collabs with Two Doom Men. That's about it, man. Keep on rocking in the free world.
All right, Doom Nation, you guys heard it here. This has been another Emergency Tinfoil podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back soon with more craziness. Adios, Doom Nation.